This is, well, actually, let me bring up, it's Master of TDS, but let me bring up the video itself. Right now, I have not watched this, by the way. I gave it a like because Master of TDS always gets a like. Gothic Therapy is his channel. I'll share this in the chat right now. I invited him on, but he didn't get back to me, so I think he's busy tonight. But this says, exclusive leak. Sweet Baby Inc. does exactly what gamers think it does. And this is Gothic Therapy. They have 13,300 subs. It's got 1,000 likes to 6 dislikes. Let's see what they have to say.
You've heard the sound bites.
Go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
And if I can't sell them on, hey, don't do that, I can instill fear by suggesting that once it gets past us, someone else will take them down for this.
So could you imagine being Kim Belair and being in charge of a company, be a CEO of a game consultancy agency, and saying these things out loud and thinking that it's totally normal and totally fine and totally won't be questioned by anybody? When anybody listening is like, what the hell did she just say? Like, that's some unhinged craziness right there.
For years, Kim Belair and Sweet Baby Inc. called it branding. Cheeky, disruptive, harmless, right? But today, we're done pretending. Because now we have the receipts. A leaked clip from a real internal discussion where Sweet Baby Inc. didn't advise, they pushed.
Ooh.
Again.
Ooh.
And again.
What?
Until the studio broke. This isn't narrative design, it's narrative domination. And this time?
No, it's narrative extortion. What?
No spin can save them.
The only reason a studio would finally bend to the will is if they feel like they will get ruined by the journal mafia or the general public if they do not agree and accept the terms of the conditions. This is wild. Can't wait.
Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? It is Master of the TDS, and I'm joined by my lovely wife,
Writing Raven.
Welcome back to the channel.
Before we jump in, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because when we say you'll want to be here for the next one, we mean it.
Today's leak isn't theory. It isn't out of context. This is Sweet Baby Inc. admitting on camera that they wore a game studio down on purpose. You know the quotes. Terrify your marketing team.
Oh, we've been dealing with a year-long harassment campaign, or whatever she said, however many years long harassment campaign. Interesting, Kim. Interesting.
Instill fear. People said it was just Kim being spicy.
But this time, it's not Kim. It's Cameron Wilde. Sweet.
This is the one that wanted to burn the industry to the ground. I did a video on Cameron Wilde. This person's nuts.
Baby's narrative designer, Kim's ally, Kim's employee, and the same person who once said, I'm here to burn it all down.
Yep.
Totally normal, healthy consulting energy, right?
Totally.
But this time, it's not branding. It's not cheeky. In this leaked clip, Cameron admits to hammering a studio again and again and again until they caved.
Not persuaded, not enlightened, broken.
This isn't narrative guidance. This is brute force submission. And once you hear it, you'll realize this isn't an exception. It's the playbook.
Roll the clip.
Definitely there have been...
I mean, again, like we were speaking about earlier, this person strikes me as someone that needs a padded room, like right off the bat. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, padded room right away. Just the first 3 words they said, padded room.
Moments. I can think of one in particular. Don't need to get into the specifics of the game, but it was a situation where the identity of the characters was fairly important that we get it right. And in this situation, we actually
define get it right. Coming from someone that is clearly very confused about their gender, What is getting it right? If you don't even know what sex you are, how can you tell other people how to identify as something?
Had to have a more heart-to-heart, really foundational conversation about these are some of the experiences that you are necessarily going to invoke, or some of the messages that you are going to invoke, some of the implications you are going to invoke, regardless of whether you want to or not. It's not a question of like, are you doing it well, or are you doing it badly? It's just, it's there. And so here are the options for how that could go. And this was a pretty, I would say, like unique situation where they were willing to take days out of their time to talk with us about it. And I think in that situation, it was, as a marginalized person, I felt making myself very vulnerable, and being brutally honest of just like, hey, I think what you're doing is not cool. And then being met with,
I cannot believe that this is actually recorded and they think this is like a normal conversation to have with someone, because this is insane right now.
a less than optimal response to that, and then having to say it again and then again and again. What I would take out of that, what I have taken out of that in hindsight, is know where your personal and professional limit is. Choose your battles. Decide as much as you can which hills you're willing to die on and which, maybe you would rather not. I think that really will serve you well, and get very specific about your priorities. Be willing to let certain things go, maybe, but that comes with experience. That's not something that I knew in the moment. I think in hindsight, I will say I wish I had been a little less vulnerable. And so that is a very valuable piece of information that I now have about myself.
Let's break this down.
Well, first off, what the hell were they even saying? How come all these people talk exactly the same, where it's just a bunch of words that it's like I can't even make sense of what they're saying. They don't even speak English. They're English words, but you put them together and it's not an English sentence.
That wasn't hyperbole. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't taken out of context.
That was Cameron Wilde describing how they kept pressing a studio again and again and again until the studio gave up.
They didn't collaborate. They didn't find middle ground. The studio just surrendered.
They even said the first response was less than optimal. So
less than optimal, aka they don't want to work with Sweet Baby. Hey, sounds like we need to encourage them to work with us. Sounds a lot like a mafia, doesn't it?
instead of respecting that, they went harder.
And when pushing didn't work fast enough, they got emotional, not to connect, but to guilt, to manipulate.
Then Cameron said, I wish I had been less vulnerable, not because they went too far, but because they resent needing to.
They didn't want dialogue, they wanted obedience, and they were pissed it took effort to get it.
And then came the kicker. People need to be willing to let things go. But they weren't talking about themselves, they were talking about the devs.
So let's call this what it is. Sweet Baby Inc. says they're collaborators, but when studios push back, they pressure, they push, and they break you down.
And now they've admitted it. In their own words, no spin, no plausible deniability.
So the next time Sweet Baby Inc. smiles at the camera and says,
I'm the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., which, contrary to popular belief, is not a DEI company, but a narrative development company.
remember this moment.
Because what they call help was emotional pressure. It was brute force narrative control. It was breaking down the developers.
Well, what I don't understand is, I know we talk about this quite often, especially on this channel, but how is Sweet Baby Inc. still in business if every single game they work on destroys studios? Like, what is the variable here? Where is the money coming from? Who is paying them? And then why are they getting paid?
Until they gave in.
This confirms everything we've warned you about. The fear, the manipulation, the coercive tactics, and the industry silence that lets it thrive.
But not anymore. You've heard it. They can't walk it back, and they can't pretend we imagined it.
So share it, clip it, blow it up.
Because the louder this gets, the harder it becomes for them to hide behind
Mhm.
that smile.
And if you work in games, ask yourself, are you telling your story or are they?
Sweet Baby doesn't do what gamers think it does.
Well, now that's verifiably false.
False.
And then being met with a less than optimal response to that, and then having to say it again, and then again and again,
Okay,
and
there
then
it is.
having to say it again,
Yikes.
and then again and
Yikes.
again.
Yikes. Yikes. That's crazy. Guys, that's insane. First up, shout out to Master TDS and Gothic Therapy and his wife writing Raven for another banger video. I still keep going back to, like, this is one of those things that eventually enough time's going to pass and the truth will come out and everyone will be like, that's what was carrying them for so long, empowering them to call it a harassment campaign to push themselves forward, when ironically, in reality, this organization is the very organization that claims to be what they say everyone else is doing to them. You know, projection, that age-old thing we keep hearing, projection every time it happens, more projection. They hire people to extort. And now we have definitive proof of that, thanks to Master of the TDS.